Oh, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's professional development session on ConferZoom account migration. I'm Dave Giberson. I'm an old instructional design coordinator from Online Learning Pathways, retired, retreaded, and back to do these professional development sessions. As most of you are probably already aware, there is going to be a change that will take place on the night of June 30th and over into the next morning, July 1st, this time, in your ConferZoom accounts. Those are the free Zoom Pro accounts that we get right now. We get through CCC Tech Connect, and through CCC Confer, the video conferencing organizations for the California community colleges. We all get these free paid Zoom accounts. Somebody's paying for them, but we aren't, thank goodness. The state chancellor's office pays for them through a grant. And up to now, and indeed, right now, these accounts are being managed centrally by the Tech Connect group, the instructional technology infrastructure for the central office of the California community colleges. And that got to be a bit of a chore for them. So they are distributing that management of these of our Zoom Pro accounts to individual districts. So instead of being centrally managed at the state level, our free Zoom Pro accounts, which we will continue to have and which will continue to function in the same way, pretty much the same way they always have, are going to be managed locally at the district by the district IT group and by Online Learning Pathways. We'll collaborate in that. So it's going to have some impact on your access to and use of your Zoom Pro accounts. And we wanted to make sure everyone was aware of what the impacts will be. They're actually pretty minimal. Your account is not going to change fundamentally in any way. You're not going to have any restrictions on it that you didn't have before. And your access to the account is not going to be interrupted in any way. But there are a few things you need to know. So let's get to those few things here. First off, the migration is going to take place over actually, it will start, I was wrong. It will start on the evening of July 1st. And it's a rolling thing. Some accounts will be migrated at different times, but they should be finished by early the next morning on July 2nd. So you want to be aware that sometime between 10 p.m. on July 1st and first thing in the morning on July 2nd, there may be some brief interruption in your use of Zoom. If you manage to talk your students into having a midnight meeting with you, there's some possibility you could be interrupted, but the timing is obviously intended to avoid that sort of thing. Chances are you'll get up the next morning and your account will be working fine. This is going to allow us to automatically provide new Zoom Pro accounts to any newly hired employees after July 1st. You'll no longer have to, folks will no longer have to request a Zoom Pro account from the old ConferZoom website where most of us got ours. But so that's going to simplify everyone's life a good deal. There is a group that's potentially caught in the middle of that If you are a current employee of the district and you don't yet have a ConferZoom account, a free Zoom Pro account provided by the state, you can still get one, but you'll need to request said account through the IT help at sdccd.edu email, or you can call the number listed for IT help and validate your employment one way and another, and they will provide you free with this account. There's no form set up, I don't think, for that or anything like that yet. So probably it would just involve an email to IT help at SDCCD. It's not going to affect that many people. Most everyone who would want a Zoom Pro account or a Zoom Pro account has already gotten one through ConferZoom. But it's not like you won't have an option after the transition. Critically, the best thing about this is that your login credentials are not going to change. At one point, we thought they were. You may have heard at some point that there was some possibility that you would log in with the same credential, log into your Zoom Pro accounts with the same credentials that you use to log into the PeopleSoft portal, your faculty portal, faculty and staff portal. That is not going to happen right away anyway. There'll be other announcements. If that does happen in the future, there will be other announcements. But for now, you'll be able to log in after the transition. Your login email address and your password will remain the same. So that's probably the best piece of news we have. And most everything that you already have at ConferZoom will come right over unchanged. Your cloud recordings will transfer, and the links to them will still be good. So if you have links to cloud recordings, Zoom meeting recordings that you're storing in the Zoom cloud, the links that you provided to students or colleagues earlier will still be valid. And we've tried that. Some of us have already been transferred over into the new account. My account, the Zoom account I'm using right now is is in the new ones, or in the new account group. And my old cloud recordings are fine. The links haven't changed, and everybody can still access them. If you have any polls created, if you use the polling feature in Zoom, those will transfer over as well. They'll be sitting right where they've always been. No big deal. If you have already scheduled meetings using the Zoom website, which will take place after July 1st, those should be fine. The links to them should still be good. If you have put a link to it in an email or in Canvas or something like that, you should be fine. Those meeting links should still work, and the scheduled meetings should still be there. One exception to that rule is your personal meeting room link. If you, as I do, habitually use your Zoom personal meeting room for your sessions, that link is going to change. Right now it starts ConferZoom.zoom.us. Pretty soon it's going to start SDCCD.edu.zoom.us. So that, if you have that link posted somewhere, as I did before mine before my account was migrated, those links are going to break. They're not going to be useful anymore. You're going to have to replace them with the new link after your account is migrated. Your Meeting ID, the what is it, 11, 6, your 10-digit meeting ID will not change, but the invite link for your meetings will, if you use your personal meeting room, will change. So you do need to update those. Also, if you use the ConferZoom app in Canvas to schedule meetings for your students, those links are not going to be any good after July 1st. And indeed, the ConferZoom app is going away. It is not going to be a part of our process anymore. Or you're not going to have that particular app in Canvas anymore. So what we've been recommending all along is that you not use the ConferZoom app for anything that any meetings that you're going to hold during summer term, because it's just going to vanish right in the middle of the term. It's going to be replaced by an equivalent app. Right now, that app is labeled Tech Connect Zoom. I'm not sure if that's going to stay or not, but there will be a Zoom Canvas, a Zoom app in Canvas that will continue to give you the same basic capability that you had with the ConferZoom app. It'll look a little different, but it'll operate pretty much the same way. The last time I did this session, I had a working version of that app in our test Canvas system that I was able to demonstrate to people live, just to show you what it looked like relative to the ConferZoom app. But that's been removed because they're getting close to the actual transition now. They're getting close to loading that into our production system. So the test version I had is gone, but I did record that presentation, and I'm going to take a moment to show you that recording, a little snippet of that recording that shows you what the new Zoom app in Canvas is going to look like. Find that. So let me share my screen. Make sure I share sound. All right. And full screen that and go. Okay, now it's been real up to this point. Now it'll be Memorex if anybody else is old enough to remember that commercial. Zoom app. And let me show you what that looks like. Okay, the ConferZoom app is going away. It will just vanish. And it will be replaced by the Tech Connect Zoom app, which is a Zoom integration app for Canvas that was created by Zoom. The ConferZoom app was created by CCC Confer, our video conferencing group at the California Community Colleges. And we had some trouble with it early on in terms of stability, and especially in terms of some people being able to access it. We hope we won't have that, because this app is created by Zoom itself for Canvas. If we access that, it looks a lot like the other one. You'll have a button to schedule new meetings. You can look at upcoming meetings. You'll have a tab for that. I don't have any scheduled. I don't use the app, so I don't have any scheduled there. You can look at previous meetings. You can look at your personal meeting room from within the app. and edit that if that's what you use habitually. And there'll be a start button that will allow you to start a meeting in your ConferZoom or in your personal meeting room if you so desire. You'll also be able to access your cloud recordings through this app. So it's not really that much different than the ConferZoom app, and we hope it will be even more reliable. There's one thing missing from here that was in the ConferZoom app, and that is the student appointments tab. Will this be the only way to schedule meetings? No. As with the ConferZoom app, it's just one way to schedule meetings. Some people never use the ConferZoom app. I never used it, other than to teach it. But you can schedule your meetings through the Zoom website as well. And indeed, you don't even have to schedule meetings in advance using your Zoom Pro accounts. You can just publish a schedule for when the meetings are going to be, and then you can just start the meeting a few minutes before the scheduled time. You don't have to schedule it in advance, but some people prefer to do that. So you'll still be able to do that. You'll be able to do it through the app here and from through the Zoom website, as you've always been able to do. So up to you. The student appointment functionality has been moved to a second app, which will also be will also appear in your or be available to you in your Canvas courses by default. And if you click on that, this looks a lot like a piece of the old ConferZoom app, but it's just the student appoint booking part of that. So if you use that functionality, you will have to use the Student Connect app rather than the main Zoom app in Canvas. Again, use of both of these is optional. You can certainly use your Zoom account and manage your students' access to your Zoom meetings and so on without using either of these apps. They're merely meant to be a convenience for you. And that's what the new apps are going to look like. Okay, now we're going to go back to real time here. All right. So no loss of functionality, just a different name and a slightly different looking interface for the Canvas app. If you choose to use that. There is one thing that is other thing that is going away though, and that's attendance data. As you may or may not know, Zoom automatically records attendance data for every Zoom meeting that you host from your Zoom account. So you can go back later and see who was there. You can see how long they stayed in the meeting. You can see if they left and came back and things like that. So it's a very useful capability in Zoom. And Zoom keeps these records for at least a year, I think, or a little more than a year, so that you can go back and you can look at historical data and see how many people attended a certain meeting. I use that when I'm scheduling these professional development sessions. I'll go back and look at the last time or the time before that I offered a particular session and look and see how many people showed up to see if it's worth offering that again or how often perhaps I need to offer that session. So having that historical attendance data is kind of handy. But when your account is migrated, all of your old attendance data is going to go away and no one will be able to get to it. it will vanish. So if you value that attendance data, you're going to want to back it up or download it to your local computer before the account migration takes place. So that's the rest of the session today is going to be taken up with me showing you how to do that. I do have an on-demand tutorial that will show you how to do this. And it is linked into this PowerPoint slide right here. In order to share that with you, I'm going to have to give you the link to that. Let me get that and put it in the chat tool. Let's see. Nope. Apply. Copy. Okay, I'm going to put this in the chat tool now. Okay, there it is. If you're interested in having access to that tutorial later, you can, and to the rest of the slide, the other two slides in this presentation, feel free to click on that. You can click on that right now, and it should pop up in a web browser window. And you can just bookmark that for later. So now I'm going to run through this process live. The same basic information that's in this online tutorial, but I want to show it to you, and so we can talk about it and answer any questions you happen to have about it. So let me pull that up. To access the attendance data for your Zoom sessions, you have to go to the Zoom website. You may be familiar with ConferZoom.zoom.us, or there's also an SDCCD.edu.zoom.us, but they all point to the same place. They all point to the Zoom corporate website, and this is where you can access your information about your Zoom account. This is where you can change settings. You can manage your Zoom account from here. And it's about the easiest URL to remember that there is. It's zoom.us. If you just open a web browser and type that into the location line and press enter, you'll go to the Zoom corporate website. These graphics here will change and so on. That's all marketing. But this part of the website will not change, this top bar here. And there's a sign-in link on that bar. You will access your account by signing in with the email address that is associated with the account as the username or login name, and whatever password was created for that account or that you've set on that account. In your case, your email address will almost certainly be your district email address, the sdccd.edu email address. Mine's different because of some history I have with Zoom and with CCC Confer, but yours will be your .edu. So you just sign into your Zoom account, and the attendance data is stored under the reports link over here on the left in the account management screens. We just click on reports, and we have usage and meeting reports, and there's no rhyme or reason to this. The reports that you're looking for are usage reports as opposed to meeting reports. When you select usage reports, you get a table, which may or may not have anything in it at the moment. And you get this these two dates here that you can change. In order to access the attendance data for a particular Zoom meeting, you just have to search the date range that includes the date that you held that meeting. You can search as much as a month at a time. And you can search back, right now, you can search back a year, a little over a year. But you can't pull up more than a month at a time, just to keep the process from taking too long and tying up the Zoom servers that provide this functionality. So I'm just going to go back a month here. Today's the 13th. I'm going to drop back to the to May 13th, and then search. And now I have this long table of meetings that I've held in my account. And I have these navigation buttons here that will allow me, or pagination buttons. It shows, I'm not sure, about 10 or 12 at a time, and I can see the next batch by clicking on the right caret there. And go back and forth. I really haven't held that many Zoom meetings. I haven't been that busy. I'm retired, for God's sake. But the some of these are just test meetings where I've just pulled up Zoom for a minute to check something and stopped it and so on. I am going to have to make this a little smaller, unfortunately. It's going to be a little harder to see. I apologize. But if you're going to be able to see the entire bit of information here, the entire table, I'm going to have to make some of that a little smaller. Each line here represents a Zoom meeting, and it's pretty easy to tell which ones are just nothing meetings and which ones actually involved a professional development session, because I've got these two columns here: number of participants and duration. So if a meeting only lasted 3 minutes, I was just testing something in Zoom, and if it's only got a couple of people in it, that's almost certainly me, myself, and I. But here's one that was 76 minutes and there's 76 people in it. So that must be a real Zoom meeting. I can cross-check that with the date here. This column, start time, gives me the date and time that the meeting started. That was done on the 18th of May, and it started just before 11 a.m. And I think that was probably the last session I did of this particular professional development offering. But there were no fewer than 76 people in that meeting. Okay, so that's information I might need. To see who is actually there, I click on the number, the 76, and it will give me a list of the meeting participants. If they are members of the same account group, it will give me their email addresses because it knows who they are and what their email addresses are. There were only 2 people here in this meeting that were part of the same account group, because my account had already been migrated to the new account group, and no one else has had, except for Brian Weston, who of course is the Dean of Online and Distributed Learning and one of our new Zoom administrators after July 1st. So, but everybody else didn't have their email address captured. But once everyone is migrated to the new account group, then all employees who attend a Zoom meeting, faculty and staff, will have their email addresses listed for you. Students, not yet, at least. Probably never, because students do not get ConferZoom accounts. Students don't have to have Zoom accounts in order for them to attend your Zoom meetings. They just drop in and they get the client program that they need automatically, and they can just join your meeting. They don't have to have their own Zoom account. So in the case of students, you're not going to get their email addresses automatically, but you will get their names. You get whatever they enter. When they enter your meeting, they're asked to type in an identifying name, and you get that. Though sometimes it's not especially informative. No idea who that was. I can tell, though, when a person joined the meeting, and when they left. It tells me how many minutes they spent in the meeting. This was about an hour meeting, so my boss hung around to keep an eye on me the whole time. Guest just means, are they part of your same account group or not? Brian and I are in the same account group. Nobody else was yet. And nobody is yet in most cases, and won't be until July 1st. I didn't use the waiting room, so that's meaningless. But this does give you some information about how long your students are staying in the meeting, which can be very useful. But it also gives you, of course, a list of, it tells you how many people attended and how many stayed for the more or less the full length of the meeting. One slight fly in the ointment for this list is that if somebody leaves the meeting and then comes back, they're counted again. So there really weren't 76 people in this meeting. Some of them got counted twice or more. And people can, that can happen. People can leave deliberately and then come back. If they have to go and do something, they may jump out of the meeting and then rejoin rather than just leave it running as a courtesy. Or their computer may glitch, or their internet connection may glitch, and they may have to re-enter. So if I want a list that is deduplicated, that doesn't list anyone twice, I can check this box right here that says show unique users. And that cut it down a bit. Still a pretty good turnout that day. Like I say, I'm pretty sure this was the, no, I think this was a general Zoom session I did. I could go and look it up, but it doesn't really matter. So pretty good turnout. And I know who was there, I know how long they stayed and so on. And in order to save this, and I can go back and look at this information, at least as far back as a year, most any time that I want. So up to now, it hasn't been a big necessity to download this data. But that's going to change when we migrate when our accounts are migrated. You're going to lose access to all of this for meetings prior to July 1st. Then when you hold meetings after July 1st, Zoom will start recording the attendance data again, and will continue to do so into the future. But you'll lose your historical attendance data if that's important to you. And it may well be to some of you who have to document that students attended certain sessions and so on. So to do that, you must export your attendance data, and you have to do it meeting by meeting. You can't just say, oh, export all that, zip it up and give it to me in one big file. Doesn't work that way, unfortunately. You have to export them one at a time. To export it, obviously, I just click the button labeled export, and Zoom creates a comma-separated value file, a CSV file, which is a type of spreadsheet file that can be opened in Excel. The file name starts off participants every time, and then it contains the next part of it is your meeting ID, which will not be changing, which is the same whenever. It's the same for any particular Zoom account. It never changes unless you move to a different, and not a new account group, and unless you get a new Zoom account, that number will never change. So what Zoom's going to do by default is save this attendance data under the same name each time, and that would overwrite the last one that you downloaded if you put it in the same folder. So that's not, we can't really leave that file name alone. So I'm going to have to add something to that identifies this particular meeting. And this meeting took place on, let me bring that back up. Matter of fact, I want to cancel that for a second to get that information back. Should have jotted that down. That took place on May the 18th of 2022. So I'll go back in, I'll get that report back up, I'll export it again. And what I'm going to do here is just, come on, working on it. Didn't like it. All right, there we go. So I'm just going to add to it the date of 5/18/2022. And that may be in this case, that's all I need to uniquely identify or unambiguously identify which meeting that was, because I only had one meeting that day. Notice I can't use slashes in the date. A slash is not an allowed character in a file name on either Mac OS or Windows, as I'm using here. So I had to use periods instead of slashes between the month, the day, and the year. But now I have that information in the file name, so I'll be able to tell which meeting this attendance data applies to. And now, of course, I have to put it somewhere I can find it again. I have actually, I think it was under Documents. I have a folder for Zoom attendance. And I have a ton of different meeting data saved, because I had to do this before my account was migrated some time ago. So I just saved that file. And now my attendance data is backed up. Here's what it looks like in Excel. I just double click that, bring that over here, and widen some of the columns. You can see that it's that same basic information we just saw. And I have that stored on my local hard drive, and presuming that I have that, that I back up that hard drive regularly, those data are now safe. So that's how I download and back up, or download and save the attendance data from my Zoom meetings for the last year or so. took me several hours one day to go through that because I didn't know this was going to happen. And I'd stopped downloading the data sometime before out of sorriness, I think. And I had to go back and download meeting after meeting data for quite some time. And it took me several hours one day. And that may be the situation that you're facing if you want to retain these attendance data. You're not, as far as I know, you're not required to, but the data are potentially useful, and I need them to justify my existence. I have to do a report at the end of the year where I say, well, so many people attended my sessions, and these are the sessions they attended, and things like that. I need that data, so I had to go back and back it all up, because sure enough, the minute my account was migrated, boop, that list was empty. That list of meeting attendance data was missing. And fortunately, I had backed it all up by that time. But if your attendance data are important to you, please don't let that happen to you. And it will start, remember, at 10 p.m. The migration process will start at 10 p.m. on July 1st. And if it were me, I wouldn't count on that not starting early, or maybe even a day early or something like that. I'd want to have this done a day or two in advance, just to be on the safe side. So that's how you download that attendance data. Again, there's a tutorial showing exactly what I just talked about on the third PowerPoint slide that I'm using today, and I put that URL, the link to this PowerPoint presentation, in the chat tool a moment ago, just in case you came in after I did that and are not seeing that. Let me add that back again. There, I put it back in the chat tool a second time. So if that's of importance to you, you can access that tutorial at any time. It's online, on demand, 24/7, 365. And you are also, of course, welcome to ask us questions at any time. Let me put my email address in the chat tool. And I'm always delighted to help out in any way I can, whether it's something about this or anything else that you think I might be able to help with. So that pretty much covers what you need to know about the Zoom ConferZoom account migration that's about to occur. It's hard to believe we're already almost at the end of June, or well, we're halfway through June right now. So we tried to do this session early enough that you would have time to back up your attendance data without having to stay up all night to do it before the migration took place. So I don't think I saw any questions come by in the chat. Does anybody have a question about anything we've talked about so far? Remember, you just have to unmute yourself to speak up.
Yeah. Hi, I have a question.
Good.
Okay. I'm someone that just uses a personal meeting room for every class, and
Gotcha.
I don't use Canvas. So how do I get my new personal meeting room number?
Good question. Well, your number is not going to change. The meeting ID number is not going to change, but the link is going to change. And let me show you how you get that. Good.
Oh, okay.
Good question. I should have showed that. That was one of those assumption situations. Shouldn't do. Okay. Let's see. Let me find that.
Okay.
Here we go.
The one bad piece of news I have for you.
Sorry about that. It's started up my recording again. All righty. You go to zoom.us and you log in, just as I showed you before. And you go to your profile. And there you will see that your personal meeting ID is not changed. And that your personal link will have changed. You have a personal meeting ID and an invite link. And if you have customized it, you have a personal link. And most of that is not going to change, but this part of it is. This right now says ConferZoom.zoom.us. And after July 1st, it's going to say SDCCD-edu.zoom.us. So this part of your personal meeting room link is going to change. And you can just come here and copy it and then paste that into Canvas or wherever you're sharing that link with your students. So you can get that through your meeting, through your Zoom profile. You can also get it under meetings by going to your personal room, and there's your invite link. This invite link, by the way, includes a password. That's why it's longer and has all the gibberish in it. When the accounts were first, or my account was first migrated, our new account group had a requirement to have either a password or a waiting room activated on the meetings. And I detest the waiting room with a purple intensity because people are always dropping in and out of my meetings, and I don't want to have to let them in every time and all that. So I put as a lesser of two evils, I put a password on it. And now, having stepped onto that, I can't get off of it. But because every time I change that link, there's a bunch of people who can't get into one of these professional development sessions because the word doesn't get disseminated quickly enough. So I'm just leaving that as it is. But you will not, that overarching setting in the new account group has been changed because I whined to the dean long enough to get him to change it. And he agreed we didn't need it. So you will not have to have a password or the waiting room enabled on your meetings if you don't want to. You certainly will be able to if you use it now and you want to continue to use it, but I've just found it to be a problem, so I don't use it at all. But then my clientele are professional, nicely behaved friends. It's not quite like just the wild student population out there. So you may feel differently, but this is so either under meetings and under personal room or in your profile, you'll be able to find your new personal meeting room link. And
okay, so just to recap then, so July 1st is Friday, so Friday night will change, and then so on, say Monday or over the weekend, I can just go in and copy and paste my new link,
exactly,
email to the students.
Precise.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that question. Okay. How about some?
Hi, Dave.
Yes.
So I see that you are accessing this through zoom.us. Will we still be able to access our Zoom account through ConferZoom.org after the migration?
No.
Okay.
ConferZoom, anything having to do with ConferZoom will be history for us.
Okay.
We'll be in our own account group. You can access it, however, through, let's see if I get this right, SDCCD-edu.zoom.us. And it actually goes to a different page. It goes to a little landing page. But if you say sign in, if you click sign in, it just takes you right to the Zoom website. It is branded up here in the upper left-hand corner with San Diego Community College District, but it is exactly the Zoom website. And you don't have to go in through this page. You can just go in through zoom.us. All of it ends up in the same place. There's only one Zoom website. This is just a gateway to that Zoom website. And it allows you to join a meeting, host a meeting. This is just a branded replacement page for zoom.us. It doesn't have any functionality that there's no functionality here. It's all at the Zoom website. It immediately just takes you to the Zoom website when you try to do something. This is strictly marketing.
Okay,
And I'm not into marketing. ConferZoom.zoom.us will not get you anywhere anymore. You'll have to do zoom.us or SDCCD-edu.zoom.us.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And then just to summarize what we need to do. So the only thing we have to do before this migration is back up our attendance data if we would
If you care to, right?
Right.
If you need it.
And then after the migration, we just need to know that we can only access this through zoom.us or the SDCCD edu website, and also change our personal meeting link if we need to.
You'll need to change that personal meeting link wherever you've placed that.
Yeah.
And you'll want to check if you have meetings that were scheduled before the migration, you're going to want to check them. They'll still be in your account and so on, but you need to check and make sure the links are still good. They swear that'll be fine, but I certainly checked mine after my migration, though I don't normally use the scheduling functionality in Zoom because there's no need to. You don't have to. You can just start a Zoom meeting anytime you want to. Obviously, you have to let people know when you're going to be in your meeting room and available. But in terms of, I just start the meeting 10-15 minutes before the scheduled time manually rather than scheduling it in advance, because there's just one more task that has absolutely no payoff for me. And even being an old retired person, I have enough to do without wasting my time. So my wife will find something to fill that time. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you very much, Dave.
My pleasure. Anything else? Anybody else? I'm happy to take more questions on Zoom or questions on anything else you might have them on. I always hang around as long as people have questions, and I'm happy to do so.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
You mentioned that for student appointments, we should use a different link. It wasn't the text Zoom, whatever. But do we have that option from zoom.us as well, or that's the only place through Canvas for student appointments?
For student appointments, well, you can make student appointments manually. You can just email or talk with the student and say, well, we'll meet at 2 p.m. in my on such and such a date in my personal meeting room. But if you want to optimize or automate the process and have a record for everyone, you'll need to use that Student Connect app in Canvas, and that can only be done in Canvas. Yeah.
So that's the only place. We cannot do that from Zoom.us.
No, you can't do that from. You can schedule a meeting from Zoom.us and then send the link to the student, but the Student Connect app sort of automates that, because when you create the student appointment, the student can then go in through Canvas and click on that Student Connect app, and they can see all of their appointments. They don't have to, be responsible and write them down or put them into their phone or whatever. They'd all those. So the Canvas app is a convenience, not a necessity, but it's a nice convenience, and it makes sure that the students can go in and look at any time and see when their appointment is. And in my case, it means I can go in and look and see when I've made an appointment, so I don't forget either. So it's again, it's a convenience, and that will be available, should be available in Canvas the morning of sometime during the day on the 2nd, because they're going to wait for the migration to finish, and then they're going to activate those 2 new apps in Canvas right afterwards.
Okay, so that's good. Now, one more question is, let's say I make an appointment with a particular student through a student appointment, then other student will not be able to join that meeting.
Correct. Then they won't have the information they need to join that appointment. That's correct.
Okay. But if I do it from Zoom.us or the other place, as long as I use a general, like my personal ID, the students can join.
Yeah, someone might drop into the middle of that without usually without meaning to. They might just click on a link accidentally or just be playing around and end up in your meeting with another student. So that's another good reason for using the student appointment app. Then only that student will be able to access that meeting.
Okay, that's good to know.
And if you were doing it manually, you could always set a passcode for that time. You could go in just before the meeting and set a passcode, and then make sure that the student who's supposed to get into the room, into the meeting, has the passcode, and that would prevent anybody else from doing it. But the Student Connect app automates all that for you, so you don't have to do that.
Okay. That's good.
But I will tell you that I use my personal meeting room link exclusively so that people always know how to get in, and they never end up well, almost never, I hope, end up in the wrong Zoom room. And I can count on one hand the number of times I've been in a meeting that involved any sort of confidential information where someone else accidentally dropped in, or any meeting where people dropped in accidentally. It's hard enough to get the students to attend the meetings they're supposed to. It's highly unlikely that they're going to be dropping in when they don't have to. So it's not a major concern I've found so far. And you, of course, would know if someone accidentally dropped into the meeting at the in the middle of an appointment with another student. So it's a huge risk.
I also noticed when I was trying to use my personal ID for my meetings, for my this was for Southwestern College. They have the setting that you're going to be doing. We're going to be doing it in July at Miramar, but they have already had it for the last year. So when I was trying to use personal ID, they said, well, be careful, because it could the recording for this could not go to the right class. You see what I mean? Like there was
the recording is another matter. You can govern who has access to that recording. whether they have your personal meeting link or not, that has nothing to do with the recording. There
I
is
have-
the so
I
you-
have a problem with my Miramar College, actually. No, not Miramar College. It was another college.
Ah,
And the recording for one class was going to another class in cloud recording, and I was using personal ID also.
all right, but that shouldn't have had anything to do with your personal meeting ID. The links to the recordings are the URLs for the links to the recordings are generated in a random fashion by Zoom. So there's something else happened there.
The recording was
It's just a matter of what link is posted for a given group in Canvas.
right. Well, the problem was the recording was perfectly fine if I was going to zoom.us, but in Canvas, the problem was the students would go to that class, and instead of when they click on recording, if they did ConferZoom, of course.
It gave them a different.
Right. Give them
That
the
sounds like
recording.
a problem with the ConferZoom app.
Right. It was the ConferZoom app.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, we have had some issues with that app.
Right.
The new app, as I mentioned in that recording, is done by Zoom itself
Okay.
rather than by folks at the California community colleges. So we're anticipating that it won't have some of those little glitchy problems that we've had with the ConferZoom app. We could be wrong, and we won't know until we start using it, but we have our hopes.
Okay. I'll check it out and let you know if there is a.
Now, the one possible danger with using the only real danger with using your personal meeting room link is that can, it becomes known.
Right.
Lord, mine's spread all over the creation because we send it out with emails every week about the upcoming sessions and so on. So it's widely distributed. So there's the risk of someone who's outside of our family getting that link and just dropping into the middle of a meeting sometime and trying to disrupt it. The dreaded Zoom bombing that was so common in March and April of 2020, when people were sharing their personal meeting rooms on links on Twitter and things like that. Don't do that. You don't want to do that. You don't want to put it in a public forum. But so Zoom bombing, you're most welcome. Take care, Julie. There is some risk if you use your personal meeting room link of being Zoom bombed. But you know how many of these sessions I do. I've done literally thousands since the beginning of 2020. And I've been Zoom bombed once.
Wow.
I had a visit from Professor Hanky Panky one day. I have my suspicions about who Professor Hanky Panky might be. And I'm gonna get him one day. I'll get him back one day. But it was a fairly minor event. And I had him out of the meeting in 20 seconds. And Zoom, of course, gives you all and Marion, you certainly may email me at any time with questions. I delight in getting those. But the risks of Zoom bombing are quite low. And these days, if you do get Zoom bombed, it's almost certainly one of your own students who's supposed to be in the meeting anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you do need to know those anti-Zoom bombing. You need to know how to defuse a Zoom bomb. And that's another session that we do periodically. Okay, great questions. How about some more? Just unmute and speak right up. And as I mentioned to Marion, who is still here, you're more than welcome to email me at any time with any questions that you have. I did 2 or 3 of those this morning. And that's always been, along with these live sessions, that's always been the most fun part of my job, is helping people. And I have a lot of tools that will make it easy to do. And I delight in doing that. I've been able to shed, upon retirement, I was able to shed most of the parts of my job that I didn't care that much for, and I get to keep the good parts, which include you all. So,
can I ask you a question about the something else, like
absolutely anything.
You had a session and you have recordings about new quizzes. Has there been any new updates regarding new quizzes?
I'm sorry. Oh, new quizzes.
Right.
No, not really. We're new quizzes are quite functional.
Okay.
They are available to you. You can turn them on in your course at any time, and you can use them along with classic quizzes. So you don't have to, it's not an either or situation. So there's nothing stopping you from using them, and they're fully functional, and they seem to be quite reliable. The interface is a little different, and I've done sessions on that, and the recordings are online. You can go and watch those. And we will do another new quizzes session. I'll probably do another one in July.
Okay.
Try to do it every couple of months. We're not going to be forced to use new quizzes exclusively until the summer of 2024.
Oh, okay.
So we have a lot of time to get used to it, but there are a lot of nice things in new quizzes.
Right.
And to the students, they don't really look any different. You know, they work the same way. The interface is a little different for us, but not for the students. There are some neat new question types in new quizzes that are really handy. The only serious drawback, and the only reason we just don't switch over completely now, involves question banks. Okay. It is possible to convert classic question banks to what they call item banks in new quizzes. The same thing, lists of questions you can choose from when you're building a test. But there's no way to do it automatically. It's about a 7-step process. And it's easy once you've done it once or twice, but I'll admit I have to go every time I teach someone how to do it. I have to go back and watch my own tutorial. It's not super straightforward, and you can't do them en masse either. You have to convert them one at a time. So I can't just say convert all the question banks in this course to item banks in the next course. They promise us they're going to have that soon, but at least before the summer of 2024. But that's the one thing that would, if you have a lot of question banks that you use in classic quizzes, new quizzes are a little bit more problematic for you, because it's going to take you a while to convert your classic question banks to item banks that will work with new quizzes.
Okay.
So that's the main drawback to new quizzes right now. But if you typically build your questions from scratch, that's not an issue. And especially if you want to use the new question types, which are, not in the old question banks anyway, those it's worth it. And indeed, what a number of people are doing is they're using both classic quizzes and new quizzes. And when they want to use one of the new question types, they make a new quiz. And otherwise, if they're pulling questions out of question banks, they'll make a classic quiz. And again, they don't really look that much different to the students. So the students probably never even notice that one's a new quiz and one's a classic quiz. So it's quite functional at this point. And I'm always happy to help if you have any specific questions about new quizzes. I'm happy to answer those.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet. Anything else? About anything? If I remember the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy correctly, the meaning of life is 42. We're into deep existential questions here. You're most welcome, Mitra. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you all for coming. And good luck with the migration. I don't think it's going to be a big deal for the most part for anyone. And it should go fine. My migration from ConferZoom to SDCCD Zoom took about 30 seconds or something like that. And boom, I logged back in with the same login credentials and was holding new meetings. So I trust it will be the same for you all, but we're here if you do have any problems or any questions. And if there's nothing else, going once, going twice, I will wish you a wonderful week and hope to see you in another one of these sessions soon. Take care.